let's talk a little bit about, you know, you being a business owner. What do you see today as new entrepreneurs? What is the biggest challenges new entrepreneurs face in South Africa today?
I think currently what I would probably say, because obviously I'm looking at this from an accounting perspective.
Of course.
I think it's just all the admin, all the red tape, and I think that is a big barrier to entry for a lot of people, because they've got this business idea, they want to do this and do that, but then they hear all these horror stories of starting a business and all the different things that needs to happen. There's something that I want to mention quickly. We talked about it earlier as well, and I forgot to mention it, that if you start a business, for instance, you get a business idea, we were talking about the question is when to register a formal business, I think, but I forgot to mention it just now, that if you start a business, like I said, I always recommend that you always start out as a sole proprietor to test the business concept that you want to do. And then if you maybe later 6 months down the line see that this thing is working, then I recommend that you go register a company. Now, some people go straight out the bat and they go register a company immediately. And the problem with that is that the compliance of a company, even if that company is not trading, you still have to do a company tax return. You still have to file a subsidy annual return. If you don't do those things, then SARS is going to start penalizing you and stuff like that. So I think even if it's just a shell and that company is not trading from a admin perspective, that company is going to cost you a minimum of between about 2,000 and 3,000 rand a year just to keep that company. And then if you decide 6 months down the line, no, stuff this, I'm not going to carry on with this, then you have to go through the whole process of deregistering that company again. So it's just an administrative nightmare. If you start a business and you're not sure whether this thing is going to work, my recommendation, always start out as a sole proprietor to test it quickly. If you're happy that this thing is going to work, then you go and register a company after that. And the other determining factor is obviously to have a look and see what you're earning at the moment. And as we talked about it just now, about those tax brackets, to see what is going to be the most beneficial for you. If you're in the lower tax bracket, sole proprietor is normally better. If you're in the high tax bracket, then a separate company is normally better. And then, yeah, so I just wanted to mention that before I forgot. And
Great,
then,
thanks.
What was the question again?
No, you spoke about the challenges, the red tape.
Challenges.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So let's jump quickly to that question. So the challenges for people starting business, I think from my side is that obviously people hear about all the red tape that's got to happen, because if you register a company, there's a lot of admin that's got to happen behind the scenes. You have to register the company with subsidy, then you have to go to the receiver of revenue. When the company registered, you get a tax number automatically. Then you got to try and get that company linked to e-filing. Then you have to look at, if you employ people, you have to look at pay as you earn, value added tax. You've got the Department of Labor. So there's a lot of different things. And I think that is probably one of the biggest, like I would call it, the barrier to entry for people starting businesses, that they don't have the know-how of actually how to do those type of things. And I think a lot of people say finance, that people come with a business concept and they've got this idea of what they're going to do and they can't get finance to get that thing started. I always recommend it's not wise to go straight from the bat and to go borrow R1 million to start a new business, because if it doesn't work, then you've got a problem. Rather test it small, and if you see that the concept is going to work, then you would go and apply for finance and stuff like that, because otherwise you're just going to run into trouble. I've seen it many, many times over the years. And I think another thing that is really, really important and that people must be careful of is for partners, because now you sit around the bar with your buddies and you say, no, I want to start a business with Yuri and we're going to be selling peanut butter. That's what we're going to do. But that person, he's your friend. And the problem is if you go into business with friends, you always over-expect from that person, and that person always under-delivers, and that is where the problem comes. So now you're standing the risk to actually lose a friend. And I've seen this many, many times over the years, where people come with the best intentions. They come sit in my office and we sit and structure this business. We get an agreement in place, and 6 months down the line, or even a year down the line, those guys have got a disagreement of how to work with money or the operations or whatever. And not only is the business running to the ground, they end up losing lifelong friendships, So I think that is just something that I would also recommend, that if you want to start something, maybe start it on your own. I know if you go to big businesses, then you haven't got a choice. Then you have to have 50 people and stuff like that. But if it's just a side hustle, just be careful. Don't go into business with your friends and family and stuff. If you need expertise from somebody else, and then say to that person, listen, I'm starting this business. I want to start selling peanut butter. I need somebody to make the peanut butter. You're the right person to do that. I'll buy it from you, or I'll pay you to do that work for me, but don't make them business partners straight from the backyard. So that's just something that I've picked up over the years that's caused a lot of headaches and heartaches for a lot of people. Yeah, partnerships, be careful, because I think over the last 12 years, I think I've only seen 2 successful partnerships, where people work together, where they actually get it right. It always ends up in disaster, and yeah, so that it's just a little word of caution out there.
Perfect. Yeah, no, I think that's such an important thing. But I think for me, the more important thing is that people are almost impatient, and they want to start a business and immediately start making money, and they're going to become millionaires overnight, and it simply doesn't work like that. You need to build on, start generating income. Then when you start generating income, try to double that income, and then work from there, instead of trying to make R1 million a year profit, and then it doesn't work like that. And in fact, quick money is dangerous money. It flows out your life as quickly as it comes in. The other thing I want to talk about is that in my experience, I find that and this is my personal experience, is that we as an employee, you mentioned this earlier, the mindset between an employee and a business owner is completely different. And as an employee, you think you're definitely getting this money next month, you're definitely getting that money the month after that. And we tend to feel so secure in that we spend too much money. And we don't put money aside for investments. We don't put money aside for emergencies. How important is that in managing both your personal finances separately from your business finances? But do you think the principles of investing and saving in your personal budget transfers to a business budget?
I think generally, we all know, and I mean, we've all learned that they say that you have to save up a certain percentage of your income every month to have it in an emergency fund and those type of things, which is a really good intention. But I think in practice, there's not a lot of people that actually end up doing that. And, I think if you look at just looking at the debt levels of our country, I think we're running into trouble. And I think there's not enough financial knowledge out there, and there's not enough training in that area, because the problem that we've got is that most of our people, there's not really anybody that actually teaches you about finance. And that is where I've got a little bit of a problem, because the only example that you've got is what happens in your house. So you look at your mom and dad, and I've seen this many times over the years, that the children normally end up in the same financial position of what the parents used to be. So if your parents love making a lot of debt and buying the newest car and the biggest house and those type of things, and the chances are that the children is going to do exactly the same thing as well. I remember reading a statement a while ago where somebody said that they made a statement that was something along the lines of people borrow money to buy things that they don't want, to impress people that they don't like. So I think just looking at that statement, I think that is what people are in, or they're inside that mindset that they have to actually try and impress people, you see. And I think if you can get out of that mindset to try and to look at your life and the quality of your life, and determine for yourself what is important, and then make your decisions based on that. Because the reality is that we don't actually need the biggest car. A big car doesn't make you happy. A big house doesn't make you happy. It's not. Those aren't actually the important things in life. Even just going with my own business, I did a big cleanup last year where I actually let a lot of my clients go, because I realized that I actually had too much work. I couldn't service all my clients. So now I'm probably maybe running at about 60% capacity, but in the afternoons, 2 o'clock, I'm finished with work. Then I'm going surfing with my son, and we're playing squash, and we're out fishing and that type of stuff, because it's a choice that I'm making to rather focus on the quality of my life than to say, no, I want to just raise money and being the richest person in the area that we're living in, So I think, so savings is important, and it's really important that we must try and save. But I think it starts with financial wisdom, I think is almost the right word. And just to try and figure out where you actually want to be in 5 years' time, where you want to be in 10 years' time, because people think that 5 years is long from now and 10 years is long from now, but it's actually just the day after tomorrow. And I think what the risk is that people get to a retirement age and then they realize, shucks, I've got no money, I can't afford to retire, and then they have to work until they fall over, until they're 75 or 80 years old, and they don't want to do that, you know. So I think we just need to be wise. Like I said, we don't always need to have the biggest house and the biggest car. Yeah, so I think there's just a little bit of wisdom in that as well. What do you think?
Well, this is a big part of the message on this channel, is that genuine wealth is not only about financial abundance, it's also about the quality relationships that you have in your life, both in business and in your personal life. It was also, you can't really call yourself wealthy. I mean, you can have all the money in the world, but if you're not healthy and you get a heart attack or whatever the case may be, you get sick, then all the money in the world doesn't serve you anything. You might get the best medical help, but at the end of the day, if you're sick, you're sick. And then lastly, there's no point in spending all your time working and chasing money. It's all good and well, you enjoy your work or your business or whatever the case may be, but to develop quality relationship and to have good health, you need to spend time on those things. So genuine wealth for us on this channel is a holistic thing rather than just making a lot of money.
I agree with you fully.
The last thing I want to touch on in closing is that you touched about that earlier, find an accountant and get an accountant to help you structure your business and, keep track of your finances. Robert Kiyosaki, the author of The Rich Dad Poor Dad and other books, say that you should not be the smartest person in a room. So in other words, find the experts to help you do the things that they are experts on. For example, finding an accountant. How do you identify a good accountant, and how much? Obviously, there's scale costs depending on how much work they should be doing for you. But as a sideline hustler with a startup business, how do you find that accountant, and how do you identify if they are a good accountant to partner with?
Yes, I think that is a really good question. If you are a person looking for an accountant, I would say number one, don't always look at the price, because a lot of people, and I think, if you look at the accounting industry, it's a very, it's not really that competitive. It's not that price sensitive, but where we see where a lot of people make mistakes is they would go, like, for instance, onto your Facebook group and say, listen, I've got a small business on the side. I'm looking for somebody to do my accounts for me. Now, there will be like 20 people that comment and say, no, but my aunt is the bookkeeper at the liquor store down the road. She can do it
Right.
cheap, she's got 150 rand a month and that type of stuff. It's the same as with a car. If you decide that you want to service your car, let's say, for instance, you drive it, you're fortunate, and you're asking around, so listen, I want to send my car into the service. You're not going to go to some backyard mechanic and say, listen, work on my $1 million brand new Toyota Fortuner, so it probably depends on what value you put on that business. And where people burn their fingers is when things go wrong. Then they realize, listen, I should actually have not been paying 150 rand a month for my accountant. A decent accountant, I think you're probably looking maybe 1,000 rand up to 3,000-4,000 rand per month that a decent accountant will cost you. But for every cent that you spend on that person, you're going to get value for the money that you're getting back to that. So there's a couple of things that you can do. Most accountants have to be registered somewhere. So we belong to an institute called the Institute for Professional Accountants. That's where I'm registered. But there's a lot of different places like SAICA, and we've got IRBA, you've got the Institute for Business Accountants. So if you go see a new accountant, maybe just ask the question, say, listen, which institute do you belong to? And then on that website of that institute, you can actually go put in my name and surname, and you'll see my number will pop up there. And then you can verify that I'm actually a qualified accountant. So that is something that I would recommend. And I think probably word of mouth is also a good thing to go with as well. So if you're starting a business, ask around some of your friends and see what they say, who's the accountants that they use, and then maybe chat to those guys as well. I think Google is always a good place to look as well. And but like I said, the only word of caution that I've got out there is to make sure that you don't go for the backyard mechanics, the people that you think is cheap, and that there's my uncle's aunt's nephew, cousin who works somewhere who's a bookkeeper, because I can guarantee you that they would not know everything that they need to know to be able to manage the compliance part of your business correctly, you see. Then the other thing that I would also recommend is that maybe have a look and see what technology those guys are using. So if you go to a guy and he says, no, every month I want you to bring me all my files and you have to print out all the documents and they want all the slippies and stuff like that, there's nothing wrong with it. But the way that the accounting industry is moving, everything is moving towards cloud accounting, you see. So if you have an accountant, I think the advantage of that is that you don't go drop your stuff up there at that person and they sort out all the compliance stuff. If you've got a cloud accounting package, it means that you as the client, you log into your system, you do your invoices, you do all your quotes and send out your statements. The accountants come in the background and they make sure that all the compliance stuff is met. So they make sure that the bank balance, that your debtors looks right, that you're not claiming that and stuff you're not supposed to be claiming, that you are claiming that and what you're supposed to be claiming. So I think that is also maybe a good indication of whether that person is a good accountant or not, you know. So because it's just going to go further down that line. So if you're stuck with somebody that's still doing things the way that they did it 20 years ago, then in 5 years' time, your business is going to be in trouble. And I think probably the other thing as well as I would say availability. You know, a lot of people out there complain that they can never get hold of the accountants. You know, people, you send them an email like 2 years later, 2 weeks later, the guy might only reply just like with a short, abrupt answer. And I think, you know, most accountants these days, in the past, I think accountants used to be compliance officers. I think that would probably be the right word. We just used to make sure that your tax return is filed, that you get a valid tax clearance, that you don't owe money to SARS. Where I think most of your more modern accountants are actually more business advisors, you know. So we will maybe sit with our clients once a month. We'll go through the books quickly. I'll send you a little commentary of what I see, what's wrong or what you need to change and stuff like that. So I think, yeah, so a couple of things. Make sure that the guy's certified. You can verify whether the guy's a qualified accountant on one of those professional websites. See what type of technology they use, and then obviously just have a look at the availability as well. You know, you don't want to be. Another client of mine made a very nice comment the other day that you don't want to be a small fish in a big pond, but you would rather want to be a big fish in a small pond. So that was quite a thing that I was thinking about. So if you've got a very small business and you decide, no, I want the best of the best, and you go to a big auditing firm like PKF or one of those guys, you're going to be a small little fish in a big pond. So you're going to be right at the back of their priority list.
Right.
But if you get a local accountant, somebody that's maybe, let's say, has got 50 clients or 100 clients or whatever, and you can see they've got maybe 2 or 3 guys and working in the office, then it means that you're going to be a bigger fish in a smaller pond. So you're going to get that individual attention and the value for money that you're actually paying that accountant. I hope that helps.
I really hope it helps. We're going to close down now. Heinrich, thank you very much for your time and the insights that you've shared with us. I really enjoyed it. I certainly learned a lot. Just quickly to end of the video, tell us a little bit more. Obviously, I said I'll leave a link in the description to your channel, but just tell us where can someone reach you if they want to ask you specific questions or something like that.
Okay. Can I tell you a quick joke?
Yes, please. Please do.
So this SARS auditor comes to this guy's house. He lives there in Sandton. He knocks on the door. He says, Mr. Van der Merwe who stays here? He says, yeah, I'm Mr. Van der Merwe. He says, we've got a problem on your tax return. You said that for the year you only earn 60,000 Rand, but now I'm standing in front of this triple-story house. I checked 5 garages. There's Porsches and Ferraris and stuff parked inside your garage. How do you get this right? And he says, Van der Merwe stand to things a little bit. He said, you won't believe me, Mr. Auditor, but I had a dream. And in the dream, a guy appeared to me and said, I must go dig in the corner of my yard and I will come across a big bag of gold. You see, so the auditor said, yeah. He says, yes, I went and then I went and dug in the corner and I came across the gold. And the auditor said, well, where's the proof? And Van der Merwe says, well, look at the house and look at the cars.
Right. Taking a fat chance.
So that's why it's important to declare your extra income. Don't think SARS won't find you. Those guys, they wear these thick glasses and these white shirts, they will find you. Quite interesting before we leave is that they receive every 6 months, all the banks have to send through a report to the receiver of revenue of how much money goes through your bank account. So if you say that, no, I only earn a salary, I only earn 60,000 Rand for the year, but they get that report from the bank and that report says that there was 300,000 Rand or a million Rand going through your bank account, Sasha's going to come look for you because they're going to come knock on your door and say, Mr. Van der Merwe, what's happening here? I see here's 60,000 Rand, but I see this big house and all these cars. You better start explaining. And I think if you tell them the thing about the bag of gold, it's not gonna work.
No, that's not going to fly. Definitely not.
I just wanted to throw in one joke before I leave. So our contact details, we've got a website called sacountingnetwork.co.za, and we're a group of accountants. We probably have about 20 accountants all over South Africa. So it doesn't matter where you are, you'll be able to get a hold of us. All the guys on the network are passionate about small businesses. We're out there to help small businesses. I've got a YouTube channel as well called SA Accounting Network, and obviously on there, I've got a lot of different videos. I've got quite a few videos on tax. I've got quite a few videos on accounting packages. And then what I'm really passionate about is I've got a whole series of videos there for people starting businesses. So I talk about sole proprietors versus companies, how tax works, what to do when employing someone. We look at value-added tax. We look at a little bit of marketing. We look at record keeping and all that stuff. So I would really recommend the guys, if you want to start a business, go look at that series because there's a lot of value in there for people starting businesses. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Hendrik. And once again, thanks for your time and your insights. And I look forward to seeing what people say in this video in the comments that they ask. And maybe if there's a couple of questions that they ask, maybe we'll get you back in the future time and do another video like this in the future. Thanks a lot.